How often have you heard these words? In America, we live in a democracy. I was inspired to research that statement when confronted with a challenge that asked, what exactly is a democracy? After having read many articles and quotations from those more connected to the ideas regarding democracies than I, this simple definition became dominant. Democracy is the rule of the majority. In other words, the majority of the voting populace decides who will represent them. These representatives, in turn, legislate the will of the majority who elect them into office. As an example, if the majority wants health care, they vote people into office who will work toward getting health care passed through the different levels of government in the hopes that it will become law. On the surface, this seems reasonable, and because it is the will of the greatest number of people, what can possibly be wrong with such a system? To begin, two specific quotes come to mind when questioning the phrase, "We are a democracy." The first is the Pledge of Allegiance, with which we open many ceremonies here in America. It goes as follows.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do not pledge allegiance to a democracy for which the flag stands. We pledge allegiance to the republic. And Benjamin Franklin in the 1700s. At the close of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, when queried as he left Independence Hall on the final day of deliberation, a lady asked Mr. Franklin, "Well, doctor, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy?" "A republic," replied the doctor, "if you can keep it." Now let me show you how other notable people have responded to the word democracy. First, from Thomas Jefferson, America's third U.S. president and author of the Declaration of Independence. Quote, "A democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49." Unquote. And please realize the word democracy is not a new idea. Consider what Aristotle, an ancient Greek philosopher, scientist, and physician, said back in 384 BC. Quote, "In a democracy, the poor will have more power than the rich, because there are more of them, and the will of the majority is supreme." Unquote. And again from Thomas Jefferson, quote, "The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not." Unquote. John Adams, America's second U.S. president, said, quote, "Democracy, while it lasts, is more bloody than either aristocracy or monarchy. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There is never a democracy that did not commit suicide." Unquote. Winston Churchill, the British orator, author, and prime minister during World War II, said, quote, "The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter." Unquote. Karl Marx, the German political philosopher and revolutionary from the 1800s, and famous for his quote, "From each according to his ability, to each according to his need," said this, quote, Democracy is the road to socialism, unquote. A republic is what America was initially designed to be. It was to exist under rule of law, where each individual is equally judged and treated. Not majority rule, where 51% or more are granted privileges over the remaining minority, because the rights of the minority can only be extinguished by the majority in a democracy. The Founding Fathers were repulsed by the idea. But today, the idea that America is a democracy is virtually unquestioned. With the advent of Social Security, so-called entitlements, Medicare, and soon-to-be health care, America has embraced the Marxist ideology, and his statement that democracy is the road to socialism has indeed become reality. To conclude, I wish to share one final quote penned over 200 years ago by a Professor Alexander Tytler. A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that a democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy, always followed by a dictatorship. The average age of the world's greatest civilization has been 200 years. These nations have progressed through this sequence, from bondage to spiritual understanding, from spiritual understanding to great courage, from courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to complacency, from complacency to apathy, from apathy to dependence, and from dependence back again into bondage.